is Seeing Red, now in our 15th season of bringing you the best in independent Red Bulls news and opinion. Now, here are your hosts, Mark Fishkin and Joe Goldstein.
The Red Bulls will continue to wander through the desert of the late stages of the 2024 MLS season with just 2 wins in their last 12 league games. The Red Bulls needed a wonder goal from Wonder Kid Julian Hall to draw a woeful SKC side at home last week. With Emil Forsberg's return rumored to be a few weeks away, the Red Bulls head to Chicago. It's Seeing Red, the New York Soccer Roundup. I'm Mark Fishkin, flying solo this week with a whole lot of crazy business travel this week. Has me here talking to you on a Friday afternoon. Please like the show. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe. We just smashed through the 500 subscriber mark. I know you have a YouTube account, so please go there, look us up, and please hit the subscribe button. It's free, don't you know? Tonight on the show, we'll look back at the uninspiring draw between the Red Bulls and SKC, our Bull of the Week. I think you have a pretty good idea who it might be. Players will be coming and going off of the New York roster, including a regular starter that's undergoing surgery soon. We'll preview Saturday's match against the FI-YER. I'll have a chat with the play-by-play voice of Red Bulls Radio. That's Matt Harmon. And, of course, your emails, as always. All right. You know, down this stretch, when the Red Bulls, since the Red Bulls won on June 1st of this year to bring their record to 8-3-5 on the season, very, very promising start. Elias Manuel has taken 31 shots. 11 of those 31 have been on target, and 4 of them have gone in. And New York is 2-2-10 in those matches, if you count the Leagues Cup games as draws. Now, it's not exclusively on Elias Manuel to deliver New York to the promised land, but in the 33rd minute of the draw against SKC, somehow Corey Burke took a ball from Ronald Doncourt and somehow cut out Tamilia with a nifty move, and somehow, I don't think it was a pass, the ball got to a wide open Elias Manuel, who somehow pushed the ball wide of a completely open net. And those kind of soul-sucking misses are the difference between a winning team and a team that just draws games. And again, New York has gone 2-2-8, if you will, in the league since June 1st. June 1st was also the last time that Emil Forsberg has played for New York. And I think those two things are not a coincidence. In first half injury time, Danny Edelman floated a ball over the entire Kansas City back line to an onside and wide open Elias Manuel, who pushed the ball wide. A higher degree of difficulty in that particular instance. In the 53rd, 5 Red Bulls touched the ball in the defensive third. I don't really know what they were doing, but they allowed KC to flip the ball to a wide open Alan Pulido, who finished niftily. It was KC's only shot of the night. And from then on, and honestly through most of the match, New York really seemed baffled in terms of how to generate goal-scoring chances. They moved the ball from side to side, which we've seen for many, many years. They tried their best to possess it as KC collapsed further and further into a shell. KC took only 4 shots all night, and it wasn't until the 89th minute when youngster, 16-year-old teenager, high school-aged Julian Hall took a poor bounce off a KC defender and wrong-footed Tamilia, who pulled as close to a Brad Guzan fall on his own butt collapse as you possibly can. It was really lovely to see. And that was all she wrote. The Red Bulls put 3 of their 11 shots on net. And once again, New York failed to win against a much lesser opponent who had won 7 times all year. New York's record is 10-5-13 on the season. And that's not great. And while they continue somehow to stay in fourth place in the East, I don't think anyone is really considering that this team is going to be a threat to do anything at all in the postseason. But better days are ahead. Peter Stroud got his first start since his injury, which was tremendous, and he showed a lot of energy and hit the deck a lot without getting any calls. Serge Goma came on and ran around. Carballo played a little bit more. Did okay. We'll talk about it with Matt Harmon. I don't think he was terribly impressive, but it's still early days for Carballo. Nevertheless, Bull of the Week is Hall. That's it. You went and you score the tying goal. He's, I believe, the youngest player to score 2 game state changing goals in MLS history. Late goals, which are always welcome. All right, I'm going to do this I usually have another screen here, so bear with me on. Changes to the lineup, of course. Before we get to that, New York gets Carlos Cornell and Noah Ayla and Lewis Morgan back from international break. By all accounts, they are all healthy and ready to go. Earlier in the week, the team announced that Kyle Duncan, who injured his knee, got cut down in the 2-0 loss to Philadelphia on August 31st. He's having surgery this week, and while they didn't say he will be out for the rest of the year, I don't know how he could not be out for the rest of the year, to be frank, given the fact that there's only 6 games left in the regular season. But nevertheless, also earlier in the week, Coach Schwartz said that Emil Forsberg will be ready to play by the Hudson Derby and could make an appearance as soon as next week, the home match against Atlanta, which I think would be welcome because he has been missing with his lower leg injury for 3 months. So that'd be good. All right, let's talk about Chicago, sweet home Chicago. First of all, before we do that, let's just take a look at the remaining schedule. 6 games left. This is the biggest trip the Red Bulls will take if you consider Atlanta. It's the only time out of the central time zone, and then we're really down to it. We're down to the short straws here, and it would be certainly nice for New York to give its fans a modicum of good feeling and optimism heading into the playoffs. And it's said to be, it's been said in this league that as long as you're hot going into the playoffs, you've got a shot. New York has been hot in the playoffs and not hot in the playoffs, and we know how they end. But nevertheless, important to note. All right, Saturday at 8:30, the Red Bulls head back on the road to take on Tom Barlow, Andrew Gutman, and the Chicago Fire. Here are the Fire. 6-14-8 for 26 points. They're 14th in the East. That's one fewer win than Kansas City. 17 points and 10 places below the Red Bulls. They have scored 34 goals in 28 matches. That's not good. They've conceded 50 times. Also not good. That's the 4th worst attack in the East and the tied for 4th worst defense in the East. At Soldier Field this year, just 4 wins. 4-7-3 for 15 points. That's 13th best home record out of a 15-team conference. They are near the bottom of the league in goals per match at 1.2. The Red Bulls score 1.6 goals per match. They are tied in MLS for the most penalty kicks conceded with 7, and that I think would certainly be welcome. And in a similar vein to what we saw last week against Kansas City, and that proved to be prophetic, right? Given the lateness of Hall's goal, Chicago has the highest percentage of their goals scored in the 75th or beyond. Oh, I'm sorry. This is a positive thing, not goals conceded, goals scored. So this is a team that when they do score, they tend to score late. 7 of those 13 goals changed the state of the game. Since these teams played to a scintillating, I'm joking, scoreless draw back in April, Xherdan Shaqiri, who was an absolutely miserable MLS TP signing, went back to Switzerland to play with Basel. And Ariel Lassiter, the Costa Rican wingback and son of Rocket Roy Lassiter, was brought on from Montreal. This is not a good team, and their themes are not good. And Chicago's been poor this season, which is not uncommon over the last few years. It seems their ownership is content with being poor. They lack the investment of an MLS team would need to compete. The team has only signed a couple of big name players. Hugo Kuipers is currently on the team, and Shaqiri, who obviously has departed. The lack of ambition from the front office means the result on the field is a team that's one of the worst in the league and firmly out of playoff contention. But that hasn't stopped the Fire from going back once again to Frank Klopas. While he's not the oldest manager in MLS, it's his second coaching stint in Chicago, and it's obvious that he's not the right fit. But the Fire appears to be sticking with him. The head coaching position has been a mess for a very long time in Chicago, and Klopas is struggling to get anything out of this team, which has the potential to be better than they are. All right. Chicago is also winless in their last 4 games with 3 losses and a draw. Last week, they lost 2-0 at home. I'm sorry, 2-1 at home to DC United. Gutman got a goal in the 54th. Before that, in front of a huge crowd, the team was routed by Inter Miami 4-1. They do have a 2-2 draw at NYC, where Kuipers and Gutierrez both scored after the 75th minute. And then before that, a 2-1 loss in Miami. So they are hurting. These teams will be battling for the 75th time. The Red Bulls trail 35, 23, and 16. Again, these two teams met earlier this season at Red Bull Arena. It was back in April. Andres Reyes had a red card in a scoreless draw. Woof. The Red Bulls are winless in their last 4 meetings against Chicago. The last time they won and won away in the series was back on April 30th of 2022, where Patrick Klimala had a brace once in the 75th and once in the 91st to overcome the Fire. The home side is winless in the last 6 meetings between these teams. The last time a home team won, you have to go back more than 4 years to August of 2021, where Chicago got a win that day in its SeatGeek. Back in the day, the Red Bulls do not have a strong record in the Chicagoland area, winning just 7 times in 35 matches. All time, it's BWP, no doubt, but Duncan, Burke, Cam Harper, and Lewis Morgan each have a goal for the Red Bulls. And when it comes to player absences, obviously Duncan is on the shelf and Forsberg. For New York and for Chicago, Chase Gaspar and Mauricio Pineda are out and injured for the Fire. Here is the most likely lineup that we'll see from Frank Klopas. He plays a 4-4-2 with 20-year-old American Chris Brady. Only 4 clean sheets on the season, and he's conceded 49 times. That's not good. Our old friend Andrew Gutman with a goal and an assist, which came in the last game, the goal. Rafael Chizos, the German, with a goal and 2 assists. Carlos Terran, a Colombian, at center back with a goal and 2 assists as well. Arnaud Souquet from France has an assist at right back. Our old friend Fabian Herbers from Philadelphia, 2 and 4. The ageless wonder Colin Acosta with 2 goals and an assist from the deep-lying 6th position. Gaston Jimenez from Paraguay with a goal and 2 assists. Brian Gutierrez, a 21-year-old American, 6 and 4. Hugo Kuipers, the Belgian, of some stature, 10 goals, leads the team and 2 assists. And Marin Haile Selassie from Switzerland with 5 and 2, as I said. So, in the case of, when it's time to make a prediction about these two teams that haven't won in a long time, I think that probably getting away from Red Bull Arena, especially after a month off, may not be the worst team for New York. I think worst thing for New York. I think if they get away, get on the road, build some togetherness, get Lewis Morgan back, they have a real opportunity to set themselves apart, bond, and hopefully win. This team has done very, very poorly when it comes to teams that they should beat, frankly, because they just can't seem to find a way to score that second goal. I'm going to call it a 2-0 4-0 Red Bulls win because I believe in a way forward for America. All right, next on Seeing Red, it's our old friend Matt Harmon, and then we're going to do some emails. So please keep it here. We are back on Seeing Red, the New York Soccer Roundup. Red Bulls getting ready to go to Chi-Town. The two teams already there. And one other person's already there is our next guest back on the show. 10 years, the play-by-play voice of Red Bulls Radio. That's Matt Harmon. Hey, Matt, how are you?
Mark, good to be with you. Thanks for having me on as always. And yeah, a little bit early in the Windy City today. Great weather out here. It's always a cool place to come to in the fall.
Is there a special place that you like to go to in Chicago? I mean, it's such a great town.
I mean, I enjoy walking out. When we're done, I'll take my walk down by the water, take a peek at Lake Michigan, make sure all's good down there, and grab something to eat, wait for the team to come in later, and get ready for the game tomorrow night.
Nice. The team has played a couple of dispiriting results at home over the last couple of weeks. They continue to wait for Emil Forsberg to get back to full fitness. We heard from Coach this week it's not happening this week. It might happen next week, and it most likely will happen against NYC. Is getting away from Red Bull Arena maybe good for these guys? They've been home for a few weeks to just kind of clear their head. Once again, playing another team behind them on the table and hoping for a better result.
Well, hoping for two things, right? I mean, the great start at home soured a little bit the last couple of weeks with the loss and then the draw. And you're taking on a Chicago team that, as you said, not only behind New York in the table, but at points has looked really dreadful, to be quite honest. And you're hoping maybe the two things between getting out of Dodge a little bit in the metro area and coming to a different location. I think you put it really well. Clear their head, not have to worry about can we win at home again, which will certainly happen at some point this season. But then take on a Chicago team where if you come away with 3 points, you feel all that much better about making sure that you stay at minimum in that 4th spot in the Eastern Conference, which is going to be so important. No matter who you match up with in the 4 or 5 playoff round, making sure that you have the 2 home games if needed will be crucial.
Yeah, for sure. And getting Lewis Morgan back, obviously, so important to this team. The ideas in the attacking third seem to be a big challenge for this team. Certainly without Forsberg and definitely without Forsberg and Morgan. I'm just kind of curious your thoughts on. I mean, it's not brain surgery here, Matt. The team is really struggling to put the ball in the net, and when that happens, it's very, very tough to get points. So I'm just kind of curious your thoughts on Morgan's return.
Yeah, I mean, obviously getting Morgan back and having him continue what's been such a great story, great bounce back year, I think is number one. But I do think this team changes if Forsberg comes back and is healthy and can get himself in a good spot going into the postseason. You have the addition of Carballo in one of those 6 spots, probably. You got Peter Stroud back. Hopefully you keep Serge Goma healthy. And the way that Steve and I have kind of framed it, at least in our broadcast the last couple of weeks, is at least the puzzle is now more complete rather than you're looking at the Red Bull team and you're missing, the centerpiece in Forsberg and the corner piece up here. I don't think, again, assuming everyone continues to be healthy and comes back, I think actually the roster and the options that Sandro will have become such bigger and brighter for the playoff chances. And again, if you can hover in the 4 spot right now, excuse me, if you can hover in the 4 spot right now, get everybody back healthy and play some good soccer through October, you feel like this team could make a little bit of a run.
Yeah, well, I mean, we haven't seen the complete squad since June. So as Forsberg's been out for 3 months now, one of those months obviously taken up by Leagues Cup. But Carballo got some more time than he did in his first game. It may be outrageous for fans to expect a player to simply slot into a new league in a new country and a new team and immediately become an impact player. From what I saw last week, it was a few more touches on the ball, but at a time when the team was able to come from behind, thanks to Julian Hall's tremendous individual effort. But what have you seen from Carballo that gives you some hope and optimism here?
I think, again, not making assumptions that he would slot into a starting role. You would think that he is going to at some point during the course of the season, the end part of the season. If it's him and Edelman or him and Doncourt, I think what makes sense is Carballo becomes a little bit more of the 8 with the 2 6s, and he allows himself to push forward a little bit more. What I've been impressed with watching him is, number one, I think his first touch is good. And I think his vision has been very good, even in limited minutes. His switches from right to left, and if he's on the right side of the field, plays one across to, say, a John Tolkien, the ball lands right at the guy's foot. Like his ideas, I think, are there. Is it going to take him the next couple of games to be fully integrated? I would say yes. I would make the assumption he plays a bigger role in the game this week because it's a building block for him to get to that point. And again, could be a great piece because if you're trying to make the link between back line and front line, and maybe Red Bull has struggled in that regard a little bit, he might be that piece where now all of a sudden, instead of and it's been somebody that we've been high on all year, instead of a Noah Ayla ball that breaks a couple of lines, which doesn't always work, now you've got option B, which is get through the midfield and use a guy like Carballo, and hopefully he hooks in with a Forsberg, a Morgan, a Stroud, Harper, everybody else who kind of plays those more forward attacking spots. And the development and the chances not only continue to be there, but as you said, I mean, at some point you have to put the ball in the back of the net.
Yeah. And, I don't want to there's no point in harping on the players that weren't added to the roster down the stretch. Manuel obviously missed as open a net as I've seen in the first half last week against Kansas City. Burke, a surprise start for me. I don't know whether that's sending a message to Von Serre about his role on the team and his ability to produce. We also heard this week that Kyle Duncan, the injury he suffered against Philly, required surgery. He'll certainly be out. The team didn't put any prognosis on the press release. If I'm Schwartz, I'm putting Dylan Nealis out on that wing to lock it down. And Nealis has played very well at times during the season. Where is the part of the team that you feel that you're most concerned about coming into this matchup with Chicago?
I mean, the obvious answer is the front two, right? The obvious answer is the front two. And I think it's a legitimate concern. And even if you want to use Manuel as a case in point, I mean, completely unlucky, I would say, against Philadelphia.
Yeah.
But then against Kansas City, to your point, like you got to score 2. You have to at least score the 1.
Yeah.
Where the net is completely open to you. So frustrating, I'm sure, for him. And I think over the course of, it's 6 games remaining in the regular season.
Yeah.
What is going to be the starting 2 if you stay 4-2-2-2? What is going to be the combination that works the best over the course of, I won't even say 90 minutes, but over the course of 60, 75 before you start making subs come playoff time? Again, getting Forsberg back, I think, becomes crucial along with Stroud, because one of those spots very likely could become Lewis Morgan, which is what it was in the beginning part of the season. So now you're trying to think who plays best with Lewis Morgan instead of what 2 guys can I throw in there. So if you get everybody back, put Morgan up top, I think at least the guessing game becomes a little bit less of a challenge for the coaching staff. But yeah, Mark, going into the game on Saturday, Chicago, best thing that could possibly happen, score a goal in the first 15 minutes and then not have to have that mental block that right now a couple of guys seem to have.
The Fire, as you said, is kind of in a bad way. They cut bait with Xherdan Shaqiri, who may go down as one of the poorest DP signings in league history. What gives you hope about what you've seen from the Fire as you preparing for this game?
Oof, that's a hard one for me because I can't say that I've watched every minute of every match during the course of the year, but Steve and I were actually kind of talking about them earlier today. And I think the best word, at least for me, it's a team that is very nondescript. Like they don't have anything that jumps off the page at you that you're crazy concerned about or having to shut one guy down. I mean, the thing with Shaqiri to me was so weird because it looked like it was going to be a really good fit when he came here. It didn't work out. That happens in every league, not just in Major League Soccer.
Yes.
But that being said, now, like, where is Chicago? Because the guy that everything was in essence kind of built around isn't even here anymore. I don't know what the coaching situation is with Klopas moving forward. I mean, it seems like every year or every 18 months they're making a change with what they have going on. But I would say this, based on what we've seen against Philadelphia, based on what you saw last week against Kansas City, Chicago is playing the role of that wounded animal, which has been dangerous waters for Red Bull to navigate. So to me, that's the concern. That is this the game that Chicago says with 6 games remaining, we're throwing all the chips on the table because we know if we don't win this one,
there's no tomorrow.
We're going to be 9 points out, and we're just going to leave it on the field against New York. That's my biggest worry going into the game on Saturday.
Well, it should be a beautiful night at Soldier Field, which is an iconic venue. I'm not sure how this poor team is drawing, but nevertheless, it's a great opportunity for New York to at least let folks know that they are interested in holding this 4 spot. Again, 2-2-8 in their last 12 MLS games. And it's been a long time since I think anyone has really considered this team to be a real threat. And they've got a great opportunity on Saturday night. And you will be able to hear it on Red Bulls Radio with Matt Harmon and his roommate, Steve Jolly. So, Matt, thank you so much for joining me, and enjoy the Windy City.
Mark, anytime. Appreciate you having me on. Steve and I always available to help on the podcast. And as always, great job covering the team, and look forward to catching up with you.
Thanks, man. We've got more Seeing Red coming up after this short break. That is the music. That means you're back on Seeing Red. Please write us, won't you? seeingredny@gmail.com. We'll be back next week with a guest. Promise, promise, promise. Here's Adam Lane, who writes, Dear Seeing Red, could we not see what kind of game that was going to be with that starting 11? Burke and Manuel and no one who could get them the ball. With so many starters missing, why not throw Carvalho out there? Why not start Hall, and why not Surge? Were these clearly not the better options? All good points, Adam. I mean, I think they're being very careful managing the minutes of all 3 of those players. I think when you, I think the start for Burke was definitely a message being sent to Dante Van Zier, right? That this isn't good enough, and you need to figure out a way. We're going to put you down on the bench because it's just not happening for you. Corey Burke's, can you call it a back heel, an attempted back heel in front of your own 18-yard box that helped lead to Kansas City's goal? I mean, if you're going to try and touch the ball, touch it, like play. I don't necessarily have a problem. I think with Carvalho, it's a question of just managing up his minutes and being careful to ensure that he understands exactly what he's going to do. And again, we talked about it with Matt Harmon. I mean, starting a 16-year-old as a forward honestly means, in an MLS match, means that you've given up. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. And I applaud Hall's awareness and timing and, Najas to go and score the goal. And I'm very, very pleased that he did score. But, I have to be honest with you, to throw him out there to start the game would be, I think, sending a message that, it's waving a white flag. And I'm not saying that it has anything to do with Hall. And then Surge, again, I think they continue to manage his minutes and get him, confident in his ability to go. So, yeah, I think those were options. I don't necessarily have a problem with it, but maybe as we get further down this last minute stretch at the end of the season, if things continue, if the morale does not improve, perhaps. But I think with Forsberg's return, everything's going to get better. And obviously with Morgan back, things will get better. Here's Yuri Schatz, who writes, "Hey, Mark, fan of the pod since 2015. Thank you so much. That's a long time that you've been listening or viewing. I appreciate it. I know this run of form is hard to watch, but I'd rather them get everyone healthy, Forsberg, Stroud, etc., and get hot with about 5 games left going in playing our best ball. It's a playoff league, and it is what it is." Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And I talked a little bit about that at the start of the show. Like, you fans have already started taking me to task for saying that this team will make the playoffs. It would certainly be an epic collapse for them not to make the playoffs, for sure. But I honestly believe that there are a couple of wins left in the season that should get them where they want to be. And again, having Forsberg and Morgan back and healthy and playing will make a big difference. Yuri continues, "I'll say I'm not fully anti-Vanzier, as he seemingly does everything right but score in MLS. It is what it is, and he's here. But how out of the realm would it be to bring in Jesus Ferreira? I don't hear his name mentioned going to another league, and it seems like he could use a fresh start from Dallas. He's a proven MLS quality striker who might really benefit from a change of scenery. It's not like our strikers don't get good looks. Maybe he's the guy to put the ball in the back of the net for us." Yeah, I mean, I'll take an informed Jesus Ferreira for sure, but I think I wouldn't have an issue with it. I mean, I think it's safe to say that other than Lewis, consistency has been a massive, massive challenge. I don't think I'm talking out of school here. So yeah, I would have no problem with going. I think the question with everything is what do you give up? What do you give up to get him? And I don't know what the answer for that is. But thank you for your note, and thank you for listening for so long. I really appreciate it. We've come to an end of kind of an abbreviated Seeing Red this week. Thank you to Zach Feldman for stats and for Matt Harmon for stopping by from his hotel room in Chicago as he's getting ready to call the game tomorrow night. We miss you, Joe Goldstein, and we think about you every day, and we're sending you healthy, healthy vibes. Thank you so much for watching episode 587. Can that be true? Wow, that is a lot of Seeing Red. We'll be back next week. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great night. Let's go Red Bulls.